As if keeping up with our work during the pandemic weren't enough, the officeless age is forcing us to learn how to navigate the rules of organisational politics even quicker. One of the primary challenges is how, when you're working virtually and far away from your colleagues, do we build and maintain the necessary political capital to be effective and successful at your job? Now, I'm very aware that it might be a phrase that you've not heard about or you're just not very familiar with, but it is absolutely massive in the business world, which is why I'm wearing a smart jacket for you all today. It can be simply defined as political capital is what gives you the ability to dissent but not be dismissed, to change people's minds and to influence without direct authority. So political capital is effectively the credit that you have in the bank when it comes to you and your brand, in wanting to get something done in the workplace. Think of it as building your bank balance, but in the workplace. Political capital is all about being able to articulate and give credibility to what you want to do with your leadership, with your executives, with your peers, whoever it may be. So a definition could be easily described: political capital is a metaphor used in the political theory to conceptualize the accumulation of resources and power built through relationships, trust, goodwill, and influence between politicians or parties and other stakeholders, such as constituents. I mean, that's a very theoretical understanding. Political capital can be understood as a type of currency used to mobilise voters, achieve policy reform, or accomplish other political goals. Although not a literal form of capital, political capital is often described as a type of credit, or a resource that can be banked, spent, or misspent. Well, that's what Wikipedia says. Now, my own view is political, i.e. it enables you to manoeuvre amongst power brokers, which are effectively the key people in your business, and capital, i.e. an asset that allows you to get some future economic benefit from it, if you take the accountancy approach. But how does that all work for anybody in business, or if you're aspiring to become a leader? Well, the reason is you need to build it. For somebody to give you the chance to do what you want to do, you need to be able to take a step back for a moment. Think about it. If you join a new business, you take on a new job, or you start a new initiative, ultimately you want people to buy into what you're doing. But as you start out, you have zero credibility. I mean, why would anybody believe you? But over time, you want to build that credibility, build your confidence with your audience, or with your management, or with your peers, so that in due course, when you say, I'd quite like to do this, somebody else goes, cool, makes sense. Why, you did a good job last time, just crack on with it. But the key is, how do we get there? This is where we need to earn political capital. You need to build it. So with that in mind, let's have a look at an example. Let's say you are in a meeting with several other colleagues and you're discussing a particularly thorny issue. It's clear that, to be quite honest, this issue is not going to be one that's easily resolved in the meeting, but to be quite honest, nobody seems to know how to bring the discussion to a satisfying end. In fact, you decide to volunteer the following and say something along the lines of, hey, I think I have a good sense of this issue now. Let me write up a note capturing what we talked about today and laying out some of the next steps. I can then schedule some time for us to get back together and finish this up. How does that sound? By doing that, you've actually just earned your first political capital pounds. You've taken the initiative to do the thing that everyone knows that needs to be done, but to be quite honest, everybody is dreading because they don't want to be on the hook for resolving it. You've shown a sense of self-sacrifice for the good of the team and a willingness to take on the work that no one directly assigned to you. You are leading without necessarily having the line authority of the people in the meeting, because you are writing it down, and most importantly, you are successfully ending the meeting. But if you think about it, really what we're trying to do is we're trying to start small and take the build it out approach. So taking it one step further, can you take on a project and prove that it works? Can you deliver something that shows that you know what you're talking about? Can you give confidence to those around you that what you're trying to suggest is right? The reason for doing this is if you build up that political capital, in due course, you might want to cash in all of your chips on a particular initiative, and at some point in the future, that is highly likely. If you come straight into a job and say, hey, look at me, I'm great, and dazzle people with a few buzzwords, and then go, can I have some money, please? I want to do something on this really cool project. The chances are it's not likely to work. Political capital is around you and your brand, and showing that you act in the right way so that somebody says, okay, I trust you're going to go and do it, is really important. Now listen, we don't always get it right, and if you look at people in the public domain, so the politicians and the key figures that you see in the news every day, they're trying to build their political capital with us. We are ultimately their audience. Think about it. COVID Certainly here in the UK, the politicians came online and showed us that we needed to stay at home. We bought in to what they were saying. That's when they actually used some of their political capital with us. We believed them. So you can see how this is where it begins to come to life. But using that, what I want you to take away is it is across every level. You could just be starting out in your career, but you want people to know that you do a good job and you act with integrity. I mean, you do the right thing, you work hard, you are all the time putting forward the right image. Image has got to be backed up with action. Completely. And you know what? Without action, knowledge means nothing. For you to get the chance to move ahead, to progress in your career, to enable to get things done, political capital is massively important. Now, the reason for telling you this is that you'll often see how things turn out and the actions that people take, and ultimately wonder, why did that happen? But this won't happen anymore because you are learning about political capital. So gone are the days where you'll sit there being bemused, going, how did that work? But how do we spend, or in some cases unnecessarily burn, our political capital? The short answer is it's really easy to fritter it away. I mean, every time you propose a controversial course of action, vote for a colleague, display persistent stubbornness, change your position on a previously resolved key issue, complain, fight tooth and nail against something, want special treatment or a favour, fail to properly communicate key decision, make cynical or pessimistic predictions, you are attempting to spend your political capital. Well, I mean, I say attempting because you may be writing, ultimately, political capital checks that you body can't cash. Therein lies a Limp Bizkit phrase, if ever I heard one. I'm not suggesting that you do this throughout the course of your career. I mean, it'd be like telling somebody to save up their money if they want to buy a boat, then never actually buying the boat because it's too expensive, which obviously wouldn't make any sense at all. It's just about to know when you are getting paid and also when you are the one paying. With that in mind, here are 3 ways you can end up spending or burning political capital. Number 1, playing devil's advocate. No one of any skill wants a group of yes people working for them. That said, every time you find yourself the one person dissenting within the group or pushing back on a proposed course of action, you are absolutely burning political capital. You don't get a pass by trying to hide under the devil's advocate umbrella. I mean, some of you are undoubtedly saying abso-bloody-lutely right now because we all know this type of colleague. So it's up to you to pick and choose your battles carefully. I mean, don't go wasting any political capital insisting the team go out for karaoke when really everybody wants to go and race go-karts. Number 2 is about radical new ideas. Let's say your team is struggling to meet its goals for the period, and no matter what you do, nothing seems to be making a difference. You begin to think that everyone is so stressed out, and that's actually the problem. So you suggest to your boss that to radically change things, we're going to implement a 3-day working week with free pizza on Wednesdays, and we'll get iPhones all around for everybody. Is this a great idea? Probably not, but if you have a lot of political capital, you might just have a chance. If you propose an idea like this every week, I think you'll be bloody lucky if anybody ever reads your emails. Number 3 is about making a mistake. This could be you write an email to your team highlighting everyone's accomplishments and how proud you are of them. But there's a problem. You forgot. Simple mistake, but you just plain forgot one of your direct reports that's doing a good job. Shit. Totally innocent, yes, I know, but you didn't realise it until it was brought to your attention by the person you forgot to include. I mean, what do? I mean, we quickly apologise, we resend the email, we correct the record, and noting that it was absolutely my stuff up. The problem is you just spent political capital in doing it. I mean, you can't do it too many times before ultimately you're going to be bankrupt in your political capital bank balance. I mean, that's it. The question you should be asking yourself at all times is how much capital do you have in the bank? Because once you get close to 0, you don't really want to go any further. The problem is, how much you exactly have is not an exact science, so you don't really know. It's a bit like the body. When you are getting fit, you are either burning muscle or muscle is wasting away. There is no equilibrium. You can't just stay as it is. That's why political capital, you either need to build it up or it's being eroded. Because the moment you get close to 0, the problem is you no longer get the benefit of the doubt or the presumption of good intentions. It's at this point you can start to become toxic to the team and the company. Always being the naysayer is never a good idea. Although, as if earning your political capital wasn't hard enough, it does also expire over time. Add to that, it needs to be renewed to keep a positive balance. I mean, as time goes by and people around you change, your priorly earned capital becomes worth less and less, a bit like inflation on your money. Fewer people are directly aware of your past achievements and the acts that you conducted to achieve that capital. I mean, some people assume that once they acquire a large amount of political capital, they will have it forever. That somehow they've earned the right to do these things that erode capital without actually suffering the consequences. But I mean, that's nonsense. This assumed entitlement to political capital is very, very dangerous and is most often found in senior managers and individual contributors. I mean, let's be honest, this group in particular rarely gets the kind of direct and honest feedback that they actually need to correct their behaviour. And there you go. Political capital is something that we all need to know about in the office, and to be quite honest, nobody ever tells you. You can often see how things unfold and think, well, how did so-and-so get the buy-in to do that? And that's because they're building their political capital bank balance. Ultimately, it's up to you to do it because nobody else will. And just remember, you are either earning or spending your political capital, because it never stays the same. If you like this video, please do check out this one here, where I talk about office politics sucking and my 6 tips to survive. I think you'll find it really interesting, but with that, have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.